Welcome back, everyone. I wanted to cover this today because it's something we talked about, and I was even talking about it in the chat of my previous few videos. Is the possibility of a pre-halving sell-off, because historically that's what happens, right? BTC sells off, and it affects the market. Normally, the top 10 more than others, but typically, if it sells off, it can have an effect overall on the market. So this is one of the signs that we're still on track during this bull run. Historically, this is what happens. You have the pre-halving sell-off, and then you have that is like the queue, right? And then now you're getting ready to go into the second phase of the bull market, which is where these all-time highs are set. So this is one of the things I wanted to point out in this video. We're going to take a look at the charts here, and we're going to see the price action. Then we're going to take a look behind the scenes, because I don't want you to be tricked based off of what you're seeing on the candles here, because the candles are not completely indicative of what the market is feeling for the value of these coins are. And this is what, if you watched the video when I was talking about the 18 cent mark, and I was saying that we're getting ready to have that breakout because the longs are pricing in so heavy, and the longs are taking their positions at that when they were doing that swap. It's happening again. We talked about this yesterday, I believe. We're talking about the longs being so aggressive and being like 70-30 now, and we're going to see today here how they're positioning themselves for the next leg up. So just don't be tricked by what the candles are saying right now. Take a look at the charts, history, and see where the money is being placed, because that money gets placed obviously before the candles start moving. So I wanted to point that out before we get into the video. So right now, well, obviously we're still on trend here. If you're looking at this aggression level, we are very much still into a bullish trend. The projections have not changed at all. This is completely fine. We're having this sell-off. We are we're not threatening to close below the rally that we had yesterday, but even so, this is in alignment with what we were talking about as far as for that 22 cent mark. Again, it's not strong resistance, but it is there, and we had to do a couple of retests on it previously to break above it. So even here in that regard here, this is completely normal. It's not a strong resistance level like what I would expect from like 25 cent or 30 cent. So even with the sell-off here that we're seeing across the market, I know sometimes we can kind of like focus in on our coin, the one that we're most invested in, or our favorite coin, and I kind of isolate it, but the entire market's selling off. But this 22 cent mark, it kind of aligns with where we would see a more aggressive sell-off, because at that point is already a weak point of a resistance here. So, but even so, this isn't anything significant. We're still above 20 cent. And what we were seeing with BTC and stuff the other day is, if we have that sell-off because of the positioning and the FOMO, we may not get as strong a sell-off as we did in previous cycles. In previous cycles, we got a stronger sell-off. I'm very interested to see, because I'm going to use this as part of my theory on whether or not we'll have a shorter bull run cycle this term than the previous years. Is based off of how we sell off, because I'm thinking that with the amount of investors that we have in these coins now compared to previous cycles, when we start to have that sell off, the buying pressure is going to curve some of those numbers, so they're not going to be as steep as they were in previous cycles. So I'm kind of using this to kind of compound my data to kind of get an idea to put together my theory as far as how long this bull cycle is going to be. So we'll see how far we sell off, but Bitcoin is doing exactly, I'm going to switch over here really quick, what we talked about, which is using the 14-day. So literally came down, kind of like kissed the 14-day, and there's some push back up, but it's still down. Obviously for a day, we're below that 60. But as far as for historically speaking, that is, I don't want to go too far. I don't want to raise it, but historically speaking, this is where we can come down to around that 58. That would be, and somewhere in this range here between 68 and 58, that $10,000 range, that can be a historical range for Bitcoin to correct. And after that, that's typically where the as someone said the other day in my video, they're smelling rocket fuel. At that point, things are going to start their climb. So we'll see. As far as for the sell-off, Doge has not had a strong sell-off since we broke above the 18 mark. If we were to come down, I would say 18 would be a very strong level of support for us. That would kind of be like that one last like retouch, and then before we have that climb, I would be very surprised if we went below it. But again, Bitcoin is not selling off. And we're kind of early right now, but again, Bitcoin hasn't sold off significantly to kind of make that comparison. But typically, for those people who are waiting on those numbers and for the projections, just remember how quickly things move when you have those sell-offs. So it's kind of like when we talked about the 12 mark or even the 15. Let's say we come down, let's say Bitcoin does sell off and have that aggressive sell-off, the pre-halving sell-off, and we come down to around 18, and there is a flash where you're able to kind of get it below. That next candle typically starts the next run up, right? So if you are comparing that, you'll say, okay, we had this run down to around the 15 level of support. We got the crash, then we had that next violent move up back to 15 because again, assets seek equilibrium, they seek fair market value, and then that broke the cycle, and then that broke the trend, and that immediately started the next trend, which we started heading back up, and we set a new high. So even if we have that retest on 18, but I believe 18 because we had so much trouble there because there's so many options there. There's so many longs there. The A lot of people averages are there. We between 18 and 15 is where we got around 800,000 new wallets with Dogecoin. So there's a lot of people that range is where they're like, oh my God, this is even with my DCA. I feel comfortable buying here. So it's I'm not going to say it's impossible, but it's unlikely that we'll see a dip below it. But if we did, it'll be very quick. I believe it'll be something like a repeat here because we'll have that momentum there. And when you're trying to not necessarily time the market, but if you're trying to factor that in, you'll see a bounce from this area. And this is kind of where we go. For those of you who haven't seen any of my videos, this is the zone that we're in. Oh, too much zoom. Okay, so this is kind of the zone that we're in, and this puts us again. If you're using the 0.5 at 26, but this puts us somewhere between 26 and 30. So just keep in mind that this zone is a lot wider than the previous zones that we were in. This is different from 10 to 12, 12 to 15, 15 to 18. These zones get much wider up here. And this is kind of the parabolic movement that we were seeing mirroring what we got an idea of previously in the previous cycle. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're looking at these trends in previous cycles here and keep an idea on what the positioning is being taken. So we're going to take a look here at shorts really quick. And then we're going to take a look at longs and kind of get an idea of positioning. Whoa. Here we go. So you see that shorts are not taking a position. So again, even with the red day, they're not taking positions here. So they have certain targets that I believe that they're going to target. I believe like 40 cents is going to be one, certainly around our all-time high. You'll see severe, like much higher spikes than this. But right now, because of the momentum and because of the trends that's happened, they typically are not being aggressive, which is being smart because you don't want to be in a position here where you're like, oh, it's going to go down when everything on this trend is kind of like down for a few hours or maybe a day at most. And then the next candle is an engulfing candle and it starts a new trend. So I understand why you wouldn't want to be on the wrong side of that if you're a short. So, it seems like some people can learn from their mistakes, right? So I'm going to take a look here at the long short ratio just to kind of back up what I'm saying from a different perspective. We have the 5 minute. We have 72% of the investments being made are long versus 27% short. Again, they believe that the asset is undervalued and it's going to go higher. 30 minutes, same thing, 72.27. 1 hour, 72.27. 4 hours, 73.26, and the 1 day, 69.30. So right now, Bull's still in control of the market here, and they believe and they're placing their money that this asset is still in fact going to go higher, right? Liquidations, we'll see here. We have the the swapping that I was talking about was going on. So we have the longs at around 7.9, shorts at around 3.7. So you'll see that sell-off that we were talking about with like similar coins, like with Bitcoin, and obviously that repositioning happens across the board. But you'll see here that the longs in the last 24 hours have liquidated more than the shorts, but they're also taken almost 3-to-1 positions, new positions in long. So this is why we call it a swap, because when you have Bitcoin and stuff sell off, they'll say, okay, this is an opportunity. Instead of the 22, if we free up the capital and we're able to kind of get in at those long positions, they take profit, get a new position. So this is something that you can expect at, like, I'll just say 30, for example, right? The people that took their positions at 20, they go to 30. They say, hey, they get the sentiment of the market. Hey, Bitcoin is running. We haven't reached FOMO yet. It's still going great. The future contracts come out. Like, for example, take profit on that 20 to 30, swap, re-enter at 30, right? So that way they're not risking their entire capital. Because typically when you are shorting and going long and doing options, futures, and stuff like that on assets, you're typically are not running the same strategy as someone who's buying and holding. You're okay with taking profit in bits and pieces and swapping and re-entering the position versus just waiting for the actual swing. So this swapping typically takes a lot of effect around pivot points, right? So whether that be the 20, 22, 25, 30, a lot of those psychological levels, you'll see this type of price action come into play. But just keep in mind that the new positions that are being taken, even in this is a total of the 24 hours, but we just saw 5 minute, 1 hour, 4 hour, they're taking new positions. So let's kind of keep that in its respective place, right? We have this is reflecting overall still above 1.5 billion. So even with the liquidations here, that's only around 300 million. And even then that we went down to around 1.4 and we were climbing back up. So now we're at 1.531 as far as open interest. So again, this is one of the catalysts that you can say is signaling that we're getting ready to go into like phase 2 of the bull market here. So once we have the halving here, we still have around 20 something days before that happens, before the halving takes into effect. And again, even if we are just maintaining current demand on Bitcoin, that's going to drive it to all-time highs, which I don't think anyone disagrees with. I haven't seen anyone say that it's not going to set an all-time high. And I think it's going to go well above 100,000. And now we have the market, the great positioning, all of our new people coming into crypto, all the new wallets being opening. We have the futures coming out. We have the X payments on the table. There's a lot of things that's here to help Dogecoin reach those higher levels as well. So just kind of consider this. I don't want to say this is like today. I'm not limiting it to today, saying this is the absolute last time that you're going to be able to purchase these coins, but at this price range. But I want to stress that timing is difficult. But when you see these days where you're at the bottom of the current zone, then if you're not happy with your coin count, or if you're looking to increase your coin count and you're at the bottom of your current zone, that's not a bad entry, right? So if you're looking at, okay, I want to buy, zone to zone, if you're looking at support resistance or supply and demand, if you're buying at the bottom of every zone, then you still have that zone to be in profit, right? Just depending on how much you are initially investing. What I do strongly, again, not financial advice, but what I do strongly discourage is not making decisions and chasing the current price action. What I mean by that is what I saw in the last bull run is when FOMO kicked in, you had people that bought a little bit at 6 cents, a little bit at 10 cents, a little bit at 20 cents. And when we're at some of these bottom levels prior to the halving, right, which is where we are now, because after the halving is where you get that parabolic movement, they buy a lot during peak bull run, right? Because people have it's the satisfaction of, okay, well, if I buy $1,000 worth of Dogecoin today at 30, but let's say a peak bull run is running, right? And then tomorrow it's 45, or in a couple of days it's 45. Like, oh my God, I can put 5 grand in at 45. And then it works for a while until you get to peak bull run, and then it doesn't. So consider that when investing and saying, okay, we are, and don't just take my word for it. Go look at the previous cycles and say, hey, when was the best time to take these positions? When was the best time to make these entries? And it's always prior to pre-halving, right? So this is, again, just consider it, compile it with your own data, do what you want, but it's always prior to the halving. So again, we have 20 something days. So just kind of consider that when you're looking in there. Consider your coin count, decide your numbers, decide your percentages, what you want to do. If you're going to hold to the next bull cycle, if you're going to take a percentage of profit or hold the rest, make all those decisions, have a plan. Do not, the worst thing you can do, and I'm sorry I'm going on like a lecture thing here, but the worst thing you can do is not have a plan and say, and then look at your phone and see the numbers going up and say, I'm going to make my plan as I go. Because greed will get you every time. And I've done it on options. I've done it in the stock market more times than I can count. I'm more guilty of it in the stock market than crypto, but it gets you every time. And because you see the numbers going up, and it's like, and then you'll say, oh, okay, I want a nice round number. It's at 98. I'm $9,800 in profit. I'm going to sell when I'm $10,000 in profit. And then you end up selling at 7,500, right? Like, it's happened to me. So you have to just kind of have those plans beforehand and stick to them. So that way you're not planning as you go, because you're planning as you go, the price action, the atmosphere, everything is going to alter those decisions, and you're going to have to end up trying to recap a little bit after it's already happened. So I'll keep that there. I don't want to make this video too long, but I hope that kind of helps and kind of gives you an idea of what's going on and where we are in the cycle, and where you can hopefully strengthen your position and make some good decisions going forward. So I hope that makes sense. If you found value in this video, subscribe to the channel. We're trying to hit 100,000 subscribers before Bitcoin hits $100,000. So if you can help with that, if you have not subscribed, please consider doing so. Leave a comment in the comment section. I'll get to as many of you as possible, and I will see you guys in the next video.